Hey guys, Nike here. Today I want to make a video about a problem with the MMO genre and how it's evolving and where it's going in the future. Before I start, I'm not suggesting that the MMO genre is dead or even dying, but rather that it's changing in a way that raises questions about what the genre is and who and how it's meant to be interacted with. Primarily, I'm talking about the social aspect of the genre becoming less important over time. It's a very common trope you hear a lot these days to suggest that MMOs are becoming single-player games where we are all playing alone together. There is truth to that. I'm also aware of the other side of the argument that suggests encouraging solo play is a good thing and attracts more and different cohorts of players, and so on. I'm not looking to relitigate this issue or declare one side right or wrong, but it is an undeniable fact that MMOs have gotten less social all the time. If you go back to the pre-World of Warcraft MMOs of the late 90s and early 2000s, the games were essentially only playable in groups. The content and gameplay loops required groups to succeed at all levels from the very beginning. This strongly encouraged players who wanted to progress to join a guild or a clan or whatever it was called in that particular game and achieve their goals from a shared common interest. This acted as a filter. People who, for whatever reason, would not or could not be somewhat social found their progress blocked and they left the game and the genre. As time passed, the games evolved more content that was added to cater to players who were both uninterested in group play and also had limited time, as forming groups for content does eat a lot of potential playtime for time-crunched players. Today, an MMO that doesn't allow full or nearly full progression to essentially solo players would be financially unthinkable. MMOs survive regardless of their monetization strategy by having a critical mass of players, which means that they cannot survive without, the denigrated groups of casuals or asocial players or time-crunched gamers or any other niche of player who isn't interested in the traditional endgame group play pattern. For better or worse, this is a hard financial reality, and any new MMO that doesn't throw a bone to these players is likely dead on arrival no matter how good the game is in other regards. But even among players who desire group play and are open to being social, the games are declining in that aspect. Part of it is that group play content is more marginalized than it was before in order to bring solo play to more prominence, but there's other contributing factors as well. And the first that I would like to highlight is an issue that I have with most new games, and it's that they launch in a solved state. Open alphas, early access, public betas up until launch day, etc. By day one of the official launch, the best leveling plans are known, the best builds are already discovered, and the best farming spots are already solved. Part of the appeal of the MMO genre, especially in a brand new game, is the exploration of a huge new world with secrets to find and systems to master. Most people watching this video can think back to a time when they were playing a new MMO with their friends and sitting on voice chat together and someone gets a nice loot drop or discovers some hidden secret area or finds a new boss and everyone on voice chat gets excited. When was the last time you logged into your favorite MMO outside of a guild raid or event, hopped on the voice server with the other players who just happened to be online, and played the game while casually chatting with people who were just randomly on the voice server? This is a rarity now, but ironically, it is quite common in the ARPG genre today, despite those being largely solo games. How is it that single-player games like Diablo or Path of Exile manage to out-social MMOs in that regard? I would say that experiencing the MMO discovery phase with friends in real time is some of the best experiences you can ever have in an MMO. Just having friends on voice chat with you that you can bounce ideas off of, celebrate wins, mourn defeats and bad luck, ask questions back and forth with, and even just small talk reinforces the social aspect of the game. If you have this social framework, you will play the game longer and stick with it longer than a player who does not have this framework in their experience. If a game launches in a totally solved state, there isn't as much discovery and there isn't as much benefit or excitement to be had while playing with friends in real time. Unfortunately, this problem is also the result of a financial reality. MMO development is expensive, and they need the money of paid alphas and betas to finance development. So in a sense, they are trading the excitement of launch for the money during alpha. The second aspect is that MMO in-game economics and loot systems have had the excitement drained out of them over the decades. There is very little random loot in MMOs anymore. Pre-vanilla WoW, loot was much more random, and you could either grind or farm specific bosses or events for drops. With World of Warcraft, loot and gear progression was much more on rails, and subsequent games and updates have furthered this trend. There are legitimate balance reasons this is so. A low-level character killing a trash monster in the very first zone of the game and having it drop the best item on the server is a big problem for an MMO where players demand game balance. But there is a trade-off to be made for game balance, and that's excitement. Loot in modern MMOs is boring. The reward structure in virtually every MMO encourages people to raid log. On the micro level, this means log in, clear the raid, log out until raid reset, and you can get your rewards again, or roll for your rewards again. On the macro level, it's log in when a new content patch drops, farm at every reward reset until you have all the juice squeezed, and then log out until the next balance patch, or the next content patch. Beyond game balance, there are economic reasons games do this as well. Rather than try to fight this trend, studios have totally capitulated and embraced a seasonal come-and-go model. They don't expect you to play the game every day for hours anymore, and they're not developing content to facilitate that. Nor does the loot systems, as I said, encourage you to do that. They expect and they want you to follow the seasonal model. The biggest studios, like Blizzard, try to have multiple games on offer with seasons in each, time to fill in each other's gaps, so you never have to wander out of their ecosystems. But smaller studios, like Square Enix, ArenaNet, or Bethesda, have decided that you are better off setting players free and counting on them to come back when there is new content. Ironically, ARPGs like Path of Exile or Diablo, which also follow seasonal models, are more strongly social while the players are logged in, as I talked about before. Because of the expansive and systems-heavy nature of these games, combined with the exciting loot and near-infinite progression, being on voice chat with friends while playing, even if you're not playing together in-game, has a ton of value, much like it did in the past days of the ARPG genre. The MMO genre. This is also evident in content creation. ARPGs tend to have a much larger Twitch presence than MMOs relative to the size of their player bases. If people playing an ARPG aren't on voice with their friends, they are likely playing while watching a Twitch stream on the other monitor that acts as their pseudo-social structure. Additionally, the MMO genre adopting ARPG seasonal model reflects a growing trend of ARPGization of MMOs. In a sense, the newest MMO are much closer to a Diablo game than they are to classic WoW or EverQuest. The two genres are homogenizing in a very real way, with some ARPGs moving to add dedicated group content as well as open world content with multiplayers online in the single map or shard or instance or whatever. And MMOs are adding more single-player, procedurally generated endgame content. The final barrier separating these genres is a very thin wall indeed, and that wall is that ARPGs have economic and character resets each season, while MMOs are effectively permanent character progression. My prediction is that in 10 to 20 years, the reset versus permanent distinction will be the only distinction remaining between these two genres. Random loot with economic resets versus loot on rails and permanent progression is the downstream of that. And it will mark, like I said, the only difference between these two genres. I fully expect, from a gameplay and content perspective, they will be virtually identical in almost every way. What does that mean? The financial reality is that a modern MMO is just more expensive to develop and maintain than an ARPG. It will become increasingly hard for studios to justify the development of a more traditional MMO when the players increasingly demand ARPG-like gameplay. As I said at the start, MMOs are not dying, but they are evolving and perhaps evolving into something very different in appearance from their origins. There is a lot more that could be said on this topic, especially how PvP in MMOs, which used to be important, has become largely irrelevant due to the existence of MOBAs. PvP for MMO developers was a godsend. It was a cheap-to-develop endgame that gave players endless replayability, and a large percentage of the game population participated in PvP. Now, PvP is played in most MMOs by a tiny minority, and the studios cannot lean on cheap PvP and are forced to spend huge amounts of cash developing a PvE-centric endgame. But that's perhaps an idea for another video to go further on. Suffice it to say, the social aspect of MMOs loses all value and importance, and if that's the case, what's the point of the genre existing? Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Please leave any comments you had below. I would like to hear what you have to say, and I will see you next time.